Michelle keeps sending me hand signals. If you don't do this all the time, you don't know exactly. That's why I like hanging out in the choir, and when it says sing, you just sing, So, okay, all right. I asked Michelle, and she had asked me to preach this weekend, and so I asked her, well, kind of what's your line of thought so that I won't just do something odd out of what you're thinking, the direction your sermons are going. So last week, she focused on 9/11 for us, and that was a very meaningful service. So she said, well, this week is rhythm and roots. Why don't you do something on roots? So this is not a lectionary reading for this Sunday, so this is a sermon that had to go search the scriptures for scripture rather than the other way around. I would like to read for you two scriptures this morning, and others will occur in the sermon. The first is from Isaiah 37:30 through 31. And this shall be a sign for you. This year eat what grows of itself. And in the second year, what springs from that. And then in the third year, sow and reap, and plant vineyards and eat their fruit. The surviving remnants of the house of Judah shall again take root and take root downward and bear fruit upward. For from Jerusalem a remnant shall go out, and from Mount Zion a band of survivors. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. Isaiah to the survivors of the exile. And then in Psalm, in Proverbs 12:12, the strong tower of the wicked comes to ruin, but the root of the righteous stands firm. And other scripture from Isaiah 19, in that day Israel will be the third with Egypt and Assyria, and a blessing in the midst of the earth, whom the Lord of hosts has blessed, saying, Blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, my heritage. And then finally in Psalm 55:6, and I say, oh, that I had the wings of a dove, I would fly away and be at rest. Well, today is Rhythm and Roots Sunday, and we all have our roots. I enjoyed sharing with the children some of my roots on a rural farm in the mountains of North Carolina. This summer, Tawana and I visited Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, where a group of us Army guys had attended the American Baptist Church at Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. We were in training at Valley Forge General Hospital in the same town. And as it happened, there was a young adult class of about 13 girls and 2 guys, and then all of us Army guys. One of our friends teased us, saying it was an arrangement made in heaven. And one of our guys married one of the girls from church. So every so often, the Army guys who kept touch with each other and the Sunday school girls, we all get together, and that was what happened this summer. And so as we were standing at Phoenixville Baptist Church, like we do here, greeting and talking, I was talking with this fellow, and he said, oh, you must be from so-and-so. And he named a town on the Virginia, North Carolina border, just above Winston-Salem. And I replied, actually, I'm from the Smokies. But then I was thinking to myself, how could you tell I was from Appalachia? But as I thought about it, if you listen to Laura Bush talk, she has the same accent those of us who grew up in Appalachia do, because the Webster's Dictionary says that it names a dialect Southern Highland. So Laura Bush and I have the same dialect. In the Bible, then, the word root, according to the Interpreter's Dictionary of the Bible, represents a nation's anchorage in the past and its present security. A nation's anchorage in the past, but its present security. And we can push this figure of speech to say that a person or a family's roots represents that person's anchorage in the past, so that the roots always play a vital part in the tree that it becomes, who we become, and how secure we are and anchored in the present. In Ezekiel 31, verses 6 and 7, Ezekiel prophesied to Pharaoh that Egypt was like a lofty tree. All the birds of the air made their nests in its boughs. It was beautiful in all its greatness, in the length of its branches, for its roots went down to abundant water. Having gone back to my home church this week, to a funeral service where my brother buried his wife and her daughters, I stood on that hillside where the cemetery was, and as the committal service went on, I read the names of the tombstones around, and my parents are buried there too. I thought about those names and the people that were there, and my roots. I looked at the church, and as it said, against the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains. And I was reminded then of how important roots are in my life and how they have shaped me. So we see that scriptures about roots also apply to our faith roots. And that's important for us this morning. Proverbs 12:12 captures this grounding of people in faith, God's people in faith. The strong tower of the wicked comes to ruin, but the root of the righteous stands firm. Roots. It seems that the Bristol area has thrown some sort of big party about every 2 weeks, right? Beginning with the races. There were 3 days of races in August, and then the Battle of Bristol not too long after that. And then this weekend, Rhythm and Roots downtown, and the ETSU and Western Carolina football game. Didn't we send Western Carolina home sad? Okay, all right. And there's nothing wrong with recreation. Tawana was complaining that she had to go to this missionary thing over at Lake Junaluska, and if she had been here, she would have gotten to go to Roots and Rhythm. But each morning, as I get up to do my volunteer job, I cross over the railroad tracks from the King College side of Bristol at the railroad station. And on my left at that big building, and some of you know the name of it, there are always 2 or 3 men sitting in the windowsill. They have left the Salvation Army, and at 6:30 in the morning, they're sitting there in the windowsill. They're homeless. And as I pick up the Family Promise people, they have spent overnight on someone's church floor because they and their family are homeless. And then I think about Donna's recovery ministry that we're supportive of, and of the people who are here in our Al-Anon and AA ministries. I think that we, the church, after the party's over, are left with this sense of righteousness, this need to perform God's justice through Christian love. So we're reminded that in our own pursuit of our own righteous living, our Christ-born sense of love and justice, that this is the very rooting not only of ourselves, but is the rooting and direction of our faith, our very resource and security. Uprooting in the Bible, it carries exactly the opposite meaning. Uprooting symbolizes biblical judgment and destruction. The writer of 1 Timothy says to his church, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and in their eagerness to be rich, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pains." Now, John Wesley would say that riches in and of themselves are not what is involved here, but how we use them. So he tempered the attainment of wealth with earn all you can, save all you can, so that you can be able to give all you can. A different direction for wealth. One of the sad commentaries on living this close to the coal fields in Appalachia is that we have seen companies come and dig out the coal, and when they leave, the people are left without jobs. If you ever have an opportunity to ride through the mining areas of West Virginia, you'll see this. The mining camps reduced to squalor. And so the people are left without jobs and sometimes without good health. When I pastored at Pisgah Church in the Tazewell district, I've sat in living rooms and listened to wives tell me how they watch their husbands grasp for each next breath because of the coal dust in their lungs. And so, and that's not to mention the permanent scars that are left on the mountains that God has created and given us charge to take care of them. Uprooting us. We're to be thankful that our biblical faith calls us to be rooted in our relationship with God and lived out in relationship with each other as the love of neighbor, so that we pay attention to these issues and the people who are affected by them. As I have shared with you my own Appalachian roots, I hope that those of you who are not from the mountains here or Appalachia or somewhere will appreciate all that lies around you. One of the joys I have had is to go to Mount Vernon United Methodist Church. And just in case you don't know where that is, it's on the road between Mendota and Gate City. And in case you don't know where that is, ask me after the sermons today. But at Mount Vernon Baptist Church in the beautiful cemetery that's out behind the church, A.T. Carter and his family are buried. And I've had a chance to visit the Carter fold and meet Rita, and I don't know what her married name is. I think it's Rita Jett. And to hear her say at a youth gathering there that she was once a youth director in her church in Hilton. However, just to remain who we are denies us the opportunity to grow. We have roots, but if we never get beyond our roots, then we deny ourselves the opportunity to grow. And I was reminded of this when I visited another funeral service 2 or 3 years ago of one of my high school roommates, the one I ran around with, the one that I would go help feed so we could go to the basketball game together. And after the service, 2 or 3 of us, was 2 guys and I, were standing around, and we started telling stories of high school and stories that happened to then. And I looked at my watch and said, guys, I've got to be at Benham's Chapel for revival service at 6, and it's 3:30 now, and it's a 2-hour trip. I've got to go. I don't have time to stand here and listen to 50 years worth of stories. But as I thought about this, I realized that I'd had the opportunity to go off to college, to serve in the Army. It included meeting the girls at Phoenixville and our whole group going to Vietnam as medics. Had a chance to go to Louisville, the seminary, where I met Tawana as she came for music education. And I have served churches all the way from Sequatchie Valley, which is in the Central Time Zone, across the mountain from Chattanooga, to Tazewell. I guess it would be from Sequatchie Valley to Tazewell. And Tazewell District is the last district in the Holston Conference. They were pretty much where they had been 50 years ago, except they drove better-looking cars and trucks. But I had, without disparaging of them, I had the opportunity to fly. People need the opportunity to fly. When the families and Family Promise began to stay in our program, the director, Angie Sproul, sits down with them and has them line out priorities and goals that will lift them out of their situation of homelessness so that they are able to begin to take flight over and above the situation that left them where they are. And as I observed Donna's ministry and the people who come to Al-Anon and to AA here at our church, there's a feeling that people want to lift off from the roots that in situations that put them where they were and to fly, to get beyond those. And we get to be a part of that as we love and support and care for real people. Likewise, churches need to not only appreciate their roots, but to find places they can lift off and be the future church that God is calling them to be now to serve the present age. Will Rogers made that comment, the good old days are not what they used to be, and probably never were. In Philippians chapter 2, verse 13, Paul encourages those Christians to work out your own salvation. And if you look at that Greek verb, it means work out your own salvation to completion. We are always, as the church and people in that restless working out to completion mode as a church and as Christian persons. We are always trying to work out what God is calling us to do and to be. Peter Steinke says that people are not automatically opposed to challenge, but that many will respond to it if it is worthy of their investment and within reach of their resources. And as we share our personal stories and faith roots, and many of those in the year that Tawana and I have been here, I've had a chance to share your story as I have shared my story. And we come to respect the roots and the trees out of which each of us are hewn. But those should not prevent us from being secure first and then taking flight to what God is yet calling us to be and to do. If we take the wings of the morning, the psalmist says, if we take the wings of the morning. For after all, we belong to a people of God that's only 2,000 years young, with what is in front of us yet to be, if we take the wings of the morning.